How's everybody doing? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. It looks like Raleigh froze.
Paul, this is I froze.
Yeah, you're back.
Oops.
Get out of the
Okay.
tunnel.
I'm at a parking garage right now. So, Lonnie, I'll try to do a quick introduction. I'm just paused now. Nobody's behind me. But this is Paul Hickman. We met last August at a conference that I've spoken about a few times with you guys called Sales Summit 3.0 or Sales Summit, Selling Summit or something. But it's really the top 1% of all sellers in the world are there. You have to be in the top 1% to be a speaker, presenter. And it really was an event of selfless leaders who care about helping other people find success. And in that, I found a home with those individuals and really appreciated and enjoyed my time there. He and I have developed a friendship during that time. We're developing a relationship with Learning Tree International. And so now we're continuing our conversations and seeing what's coming from this. But part of this is he'll come and speak with you guys about what it's like to actually be an enterprise account executive and the work his way up there. So Paul, without further ado, I'll turn it over to you and hopefully I'm no longer frozen. So we'll go from there.
Yeah. Thanks, Raleigh. And appreciate you guys spending some time with me today. If at any point you have any questions, feel free to just interrupt or raise your hand. I'll try to keep an eye on things. We're more of a Teams company, but I do have a Zoom account because a couple of my customers don't use Teams. And so I've got a Zoom account as well. So I'm a little bit familiar with it. But thanks again, Raleigh, for the introduction. My name is Paul Hickman. I live in Northern Virginia. I've been in sales like my entire professional career. After graduating college, I went to William & Mary, graduated 2010. I guess before I get to that, even before college, I feel like I've always been a problem solver. Like that's what I like to do. I was really into math growing up. Like I was in math club, which was super cool. And I thought I was going to be in mathematics, like as a major in college. But then I took a kinesiology class, which I found really interesting, and a business. It was just like introduction to business administration. And I had a bunch of athletes on my hall. I mean, there was 18 guys, and I think 14 were athletes. So it was just like surrounded by this, and half of them were like, dude, you got to get into kinesiology. It's the easiest degree to get at William & Mary. Because like, I've got friends who are doing like pre-med and neuroscience and all kinds of crazy stuff. But I really enjoyed the kinesiology classes. I did end up getting a certification as a personal trainer. So I did that for a couple of years, but really enjoyed my business courses and decided that my major would be a bachelor in business administration with a second major in kinesiology. So I graduated in 2010. And my junior year, I started a federal acquisitions like recruitment program. And I think I went through 6 interviews over about a 12-month period. And then I got an email from USA Jobs, like automatic, don't reply email, being like, hey, Obama signed some executive order, and as a result, this hiring program has been reset. So kindly reapply, and we'll get you right back in it. And this was a year into like my process, thinking I would graduate after college with this. It was a 2-year rotational federal acquisitions program, like moving me through different parts of the government to help me understand acquisition. I graduated as like a G something or other. But all of a sudden, I had a girlfriend who I wanted to be my fiance and wife eventually. Wanted to move out of my parents' house not too long after I graduated college. So I needed to find something to do. And William & Mary is a pretty good career center. And so I was able to find an internship with a property management company. And so I did that for a summer. And then they offered me a full-time position, and the salary was X. And then they said there's, commissions that you can make based off of um, leasing apartments. And so I just did like quick math of like how many apartments are in this complex, how many other leasing consultants are here. Even if it was all, split down the middle, there's not really much upside. So I went looking for another job and found a position at CoStar Group in DC. They're property management, I'm sorry, commercial real estate information company. So basically, all the commercial properties in the world are documented in this database that CoStar creates and maintains, and then they sell that information back to brokers. So like, your CBRE and Jones Lang LaSalle and like every commercial broker works with them. Um, I liked it there. It was a little bit of like boiler room esque. Um, like we had a kickoff, sales kickoff. A lot of companies have sales kickoffs every year. They do theirs in January. Yeah. And the year that I was leaving, they were doing the prize for the next year would be $1 million in cash. So they like had us in the Oriental Mandarin Hotel in DC, like with $1 million of cash, like that was real money, and you got to take your picture with it. And then the CEO, who's still there, Andy Florence, I love him. He was a good CEO, and I believe in his vision. I'll get to why I left later. But he kept talking about, this money. You guys have done such a great job as a sales team. This commission money, it's all yours. Like this money here on the stage, this is your commission dollars. And then like day two, somebody walked up and grabbed the money, and he was like, yes, that's what you should do, this is your money. And then like it was pandemonium because everyone was rushing the stage, and they take like a leaf blower with cash and just like spray it on the crowd or throw hand, and like, I mean, I don't know the tax implications of that. I don't know how they dealt with that, but so it was fun. A lot of churn and burn though. They would kind of just bring people in, and you're making a lot of phone calls, and it was kind of, right now your commercial properties are in our system, but they're only available to a small population. If you pay a monthly fee, then they'll be available to a wider audience, more eyes on your property. In theory, you could sell or lease your commercial property. So it's $50 a month, Visa, MasterCard, American Express. And then you just like wait. And then the broker would be like, all right, let me get my assistant on. I'll give you a credit card and we'll sign you up. So it was a subscription marketing service. So it was relatively simple sale, one call close kind of thing. But what I didn't like about it, there wasn't a lot of tangible benefits. They could see like eyes, like views on the property. But, in the almost 2 years that I was there, I never had a customer say, hey, I got a call or somebody contacted me through your platform about my property. And like my aha moment was I sold the service to a woman in upstate New York who had a kids day camp. It was like a summer camp, which was technically qualified as a commercial property. I convinced her to buy the service. And like, if I was thinking, would this really help? It's a long stretch. And she had the service for a couple months, and she called me, and she wasn't even upset. She's like, no one's called me about my property, but I forgot that this is a reoccurring charge. Can I go ahead and cancel? And I had to keep customers on for at least 3 months, I think it was, before I would get dinged. So like each month I'd start out in the hole basically to sell out of my cancellations. And so then you're really only making money the last couple of days of the month once you've sold enough of these subscription things. So anyway, I didn't believe really in the product, and I felt bad, about what I was doing. And a friend of mine that I met worked at Aerotech. I think they're a national recruiting company, and he's like, "Hey, there's this company called Learning Tree. You should check them out. They do, employee development." And um, interviewed there, got the job, and that was 10 years ago. So I've been at Learning Tree for 10 years. We're a workforce development company, primarily in the IT space. So I'm helping organizations upskill their workforce. And like, you can't go online without seeing something about, the cybersecurity skills gap and the workforce skills gap and the talent skills gap. So it's on top of mind for everybody. Um, our kind of challenge, I guess, a little bit is um, we've been around for a long time, so there's a brand recognition, which is great, but we also have this is how we do it kind of philosophy. And so I'm always finding opportunities or customer requests that I bring that make sense. But we, as a company, are like, well, that's going to take development time, or that's not, exactly convenient for us. So we're not going to do it that way. So and it's a relatively small company. It's about 50 million in revenue. There's about 150 employees. Um, we've got operating units here in the US, Canada, UK, Sweden, and Japan. Um, so I've done a couple of different roles. Um, as an individual contributor, they've tried to get me to management, and I've been acting as a team lead. So I'm like still carrying a quota while also selling. And there's good things and bad things about it, but overall, I like the work. I like the customers that I get to work with. Support a lot of. I kind of grew up in like the SMB, small and medium sized business customers, and state and local government. Um, and in the last couple of years, I've pivoted to large federal system integrators. So your Accenture, your Booz Allen Hamilton, your SAIC, those large kind of defense contractors, Grumman, Lockheed. Um, so work supporting them. Um, I think that's it. I had some other points to make about selling in general, but I don't know if there's any immediate questions or thoughts, things that you guys wanted to talk about. Yeah, Sam, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I had a question. Thanks for coming out here, Paul. Appreciate it. Uh, what's your typical ramp time in the sales team? And on top of that, how easily are there? What's the percentage of attainment for that quota?
Making me work. It's lower here. I think you see like different things online. I saw some report saying, industry for all salespeople average is 35%, give or take, hit quota. Um, Here it might even be a little bit lower than 35%. Um, One of my buddies at Salesforce says it's about 50% at Salesforce. Gartner likes to tote the fact that like everybody seems to hit quota, like 65%, 70% hit quota. Um, we like our ramp, it's could be better. Like I implemented a mentoring program because I felt like you get onboarded, you have a manager, um, and I feel like it used to be 3, maybe 4 weeks of like scheduled time and shadowing and working with reps and learning different departments. And then like over the years, it kind of keeps getting the shorter and shorter time. So now it's like basically 2 weeks. And we used to have live training which is funny because like that's primarily our business is live instructor-led training. And we would have new employees learn our systems with a live person teaching them and like walking them through. And then we stopped that and we recorded everything. And like what I sell against all the time is low completion rates, low engagement, low understanding. So that's a good question, Sam, and a good thing to ask because I mean, I'm trying to think, like you hear about like back in the day, Xerox and like IBM were like the master sales training companies. There's more and more companies are getting better at it now because they kind of realize that they have to, and that, by making a ramp and onboarding better, then the rep is going to be more productive sooner. Um, so asking those kind of questions when you're talking to a potential employer is important. Or if you can talk to someone not in the recruiting process, that's super helpful. Because if I'm a candidate and I want to get this job and I'm asking the recruiter or the hiring manager, well, what sort of training am I going to get? In a perfect world, that'd be a reasonable question to ask. But like in reality, there's this like silly assumption that you'll know everything and you'll just like start day one. So talking to someone who works at the company that you want to work at is really helpful because they'll give you just, here's what you need to know, here's the real story. Because the recruiters are just like trying to get you, not all recruiters are like this, but a lot of them are. They're just trying to get you to accept the position because that's their metric, is getting more people to be hired. They don't get dinged if you are a bad employee and you fail. They're just judged on, can I get more people to accept? So asking that and understanding, every company does a little bit different. I'm kind of entertaining some job opportunities out there, and I'm talking to this company, Schneider Electric, which they're just this like massive conglomerate of, I don't know, electric things. Like the basic, what I'd be selling is green projects for state and local and K-12. So like, how do we make your building LEED certified or green, or reduce your carbon emissions? And they're saying like, we're going to send you down to Dallas for 6 weeks for this like intensive onboarding. And like I said, ours at Learning Tree, it's basically 2 weeks. So every company's be a little bit different. It's good to try to ask that. It's great if they'll tell you up front. But, and I don't know, I might be wrong, but like my experience is, if you go in and you're like, well, how are you going to help train me? Then it's easy for the recruiter to be like, well, this person, it sounds like they're going to be work, and let's go find somebody that's going to just come in and start selling immediately. So if you can find out about it, not necessarily, not making a big deal about it, I guess, in the recruiting process, if that makes sense. Because you don't want to seem like needy before you've even gotten onboarded. Although like it's, it's expected, it's necessary, it's assumed, it's helpful. But it depends on the company too, a lot of it. So Carlotta.
Yes. Hi, and thank you for joining us, Paul. I have a couple of questions, and you kind of alluded to one of them. So the first one, you said you've been with Learning Tree for 10 years. What has made you stay with the company that long? And then the second portion of it is, after being with the company that long, is there anything that would make you want to look elsewhere for either other positions in the company or for different opportunities outside of the company, whether it's for growing opportunities or anything like that?
Why so long? Flexibility, I think, is a big part of it. I've got two girls now, 5 and 3. And so the flexibility, I mean, a lot of sales roles are like this, which is why I love what I do is the flexibility and like you kind of create your own schedule. At CoStar, I did have to clock in and out. But I haven't had to do that at Learning Tree. So like I work whatever hours, like as long as my numbers are good, my revenue is good, nobody really cares what I'm doing. A former boss of mine told me like there's 3 things that you want to look for in a selling job. It's the compensation, your manager or the management, and then like the work that you're doing, the customers that you're working with. So I've always loved the work that I'm doing, the customers that I'm working with. Like we have a good product here. I don't have to worry about, customer dissatisfaction, which is why I got out of the last job. And marketing advertising can be kind of tough. I'm sure things have improved a lot over the years with like all kinds of intelligence and insights that you can sell marketing products better. But like the work that you do, I don't love my current manager. And we have an investor who took over a majority stake in our company. And the vibe that I'm getting is there's an interest in selling. And so when there's an interest in selling, they're managing costs. And as a salesperson who gets paid on commission, I don't like when they're trying to reduce costs because that's reducing commissions basically. So I've loved the work that I've done. I've generally loved my manager. I'm struggling a little bit right now. He's been at the company for a very long time. He's based in Ohio, so I never get to see him. He's very hard to get a hold of. So you can imagine that could be frustrating because, your manager's supposed to be there to help support you and remove barriers, not just like call you out of the blue once a month to say, hey, why isn't your pipeline up to date? Or yeah, he's messaging me right now, asking me for something. And it's I don't know, it's frustrating. And I think I don't know what the saying is. Like people don't leave jobs, they leave managers. There's some sort of saying out there that's something like that, and it's very true because a good sales manager like gets stuff out of the way for you, makes things easier. And even if there's something negative happening, they boost you up and like try to spin it in a more positive way. And sometimes I feel like my current manager, he's just like something negative is happening and I can't even talk to him about it because he doesn't like respond to emails or phone calls or Teams messages or anything like that. So it's and two, the company, like I said, it's a relatively small company. So there's only so many things that I can do. I could go into leadership. I don't know if that's really like my calling. I like being a seller and kind of staying close to customers. And in terms of other positions, I've thought about, oh yeah, no, Lonnie, it's happening. But it, going back to like the idea of a career in sales, I asked my brother, he's older than me, and he's a lot smarter than me. He's got 2 master's degrees. He went to tech. He was an aerospace engineer. So he's like literally a rocket scientist. And he's in the federal government. He's a GS 12 step 10. I don't know exactly what that means, but his salary is about 115,000. And like, I don't want to, like, teachers don't get paid enough. Government employees don't get paid enough. Like, there's all the things are all screwy in the world. But the reality is, I'm looking at positions where my base will be higher than that salary. And like typically sales positions, it's like a 50-50 split. There's always a little bit of variability. But that's why one of the main reasons I got into sales was to, I wanted to buy an engagement ring for my wife. I wanted to move out of my parents' house. I wanted to pay off all my college debt. I'm one of 5 kids. So like I had a lot of debt when I came out of school. So that's what drove me to sales and has kept me kind of motivated. So sorry, there's a long way of saying other positions, it's just hard because I could go work in marketing or product or something like that. And I would I can't help myself. I would still work as hard as I do right now. And then at the end of the year, I would get like a 3%, cost of living raise versus in sales, I can work really hard and get a deal closed. And then I get like a 20% raise in a month. And it's hard to like think of anything different now. It's kind of like rotted my brain. The idea of that kind of like incremental growth. So that's why I've stuck with it. And usually too in sales, like the longer you've been in it, the more opportunities are available to you. And a lot of times, not for good reason necessarily, it's just like the way that the industry is. Like you could be a bad seller, but you've been doing it for 10 years. And you could be brand new to sales, but you're like the best employee, most hardest working person ever. But a company is going to be like, well, you've got 10 years of selling experience. I think I want you, and I'll pay you more than this person who's like better qualified, will work harder and be better for my company. But like the recruiting, view, sometimes it's just, years of experience, what's your resume look like, that kind of thing. So, yeah. And I like the people that I work with too, with the exception of my manager. I like a lot of my colleagues, and we keep it fun. So yeah, Carlotta. Roman, I think you were next.
Excuse me. Hey, Paul. On that one job you were talking about, I guess in the earlier days of your career, where you said you had 3 months or you get dinged if the salespeople your prospects weren't staying with you guys. What was the like steps that it took if you didn't meet that? And then what is the steps they do now with your current company? How does it differ? And I guess as a second part, does that motivate you, or is that something that kind of bothers you sometimes?
So at my last job, you were selling a monthly subscription. It was $50 a month. They just sign up with a credit card, like super simple sales process. And somebody in accounting or finance like did the math and said, well, if we have X number of employees selling Y number of subscriptions and we're paying them Z dollars, we need the customers to at least stay on for 3 months and have paid us $150, or else we're going to have to, ding the sales reps. And so it was just, in a month, I might sell like 30 deals, and then that becomes like a rolling thing. And so the first of the month, I might have 10 customers who've canceled. And so to make the same kind of money, I got to sell 40 deals because I start out in the hole. And yes, it was kind of frustrating and a little bit like demoralizing. Just like, you get told no in sales all the time. Like that's just kind of a part of, selling. Um, and then when they're before they buy, they tell you no. And then after they buy, they tell you like, I don't want your product. I hate it. Then yeah, that's not fun. And so that's why I wanted to get out. And at CoStar, they tended to hire senior sellers direct from brokerage firms. So that way, like, I'm a Jones Lang LaSalle broker, CoStar is going to hire me, and then I can just turn around. I've got a new name tag on, and I can go sell to all my Jones Lang LaSalle buddies now that I work at CoStar. So it wasn't a lot of like promoting from inside. Um, but it also in a little way kind of like drove me because it was just that much more of a sense of urgency, because I knew there was like a certain tier that I would get to, or I would want to get to each month, where I think it was like $250 maybe. It's been so long, man. I think it was, let's say 250. So then at the beginning of the month, I sell a deal and I get nothing. I'm like still digging out of the hole. But at the end of the month, and I'm making $250 each person that I close, and maybe I close like 8 people in a day. And I'm like, shoot, I just made $2,000. Like I still remember my first job working at a snack bar. I get $5.25 an hour, and I'd work like 3 months and I'd get $2,000. Like it sucked. So it was a little bit of that mindset, because I'm in a hole, or because there's a tier that I need to get to. I got to start the month out strong and continue throughout the month, because like the real payouts at the very end. And in my current company, every once in a while we'll have a customer who complains about the quality of the class or the instructor. Honestly, the most common complaint is always like, there weren't enough cookies on Cookie Wednesday, or there wasn't gluten-free snack options for me. And that's really bothersome. Like, I'm so sorry. But like, it's rarely an issue with the content of the class. So that makes it a lot easier. You want to find something that, I have found in my selling career, at least, I like selling something that generally my customers like, so they're not, calling me pissed off, because that's not fun. So, Eric, what do you got?
Hey, Paul, thanks for coming in, sharing your time with us. You went to a great school, by the way, there at William and Mary. Love the area, love Williamsburg. It's a great little area. I was just on the street in Newport News for a while. I like Lonnie's question. If you don't want to answer it directly, you say, hey, what tax bracket are you in? That'd be pretty cool, just for our understanding, because in the military we wait 2 years or until we get promoted. So
Yeah.
for a promotion. Hey, the second question would be, if you're looking for a new company at this stage in your career, what are like 1 or 2 or 3 things you're looking for in a company if you'd want to move?
So the first one, W-2, last year I was 230. The year before that I was 190. The year before that it was 270. So like that's like pretty big jumps. But again, like my brother, he gives me shit all the time, because he's like, what do you even do, man? Like you just like talk to people. And I'm like, yeah, you could do it too. You probably would even do it better. I don't know. Like he's got a problem where like he always has to be right, and he always has to be the smartest person in the room. And in selling, you don't make a lot of friends, correcting people all the time. And, I had this one instant, it's part of selling. I had a customer who was supposed to commit to a purchase, and there was a deadline. And then Friday night at like 6 o'clock, he says, like, actually, we're not going to be able to do this. And I try to contact him to be like, wait, you said this was happening, and he's on vacation. It's just like out of office response. And it's hard not to feel like disrespected. And but like that's what selling is sometimes. There's really good times and there's really frustrating times. Um, and what I'm so like there's a really good site. I don't know if Raleigh's introduced you guys to it. RepView. Um, .com. And you can create an account for free. And I think you can just start viewing things. I don't know if you have to like be tied to a company or something, but the idea of RepView is people are sharing what their salary is, average, how many people hit quota, what's your on target earnings, what's the, lowest you'll probably make, what's the upside at different roles. And so you'll see too in lots of sales positions, it's like you're just getting started, then like 2 to 3 years experience, then 5+, then like maybe 8 to 12, then 10+, 15+. I mean, there's positions that I think that I would do well at, but like the requirements like 15 years selling, and I don't have 15 years selling. So what I'm looking for, I've like, I don't know, it's a little bit of just taking care of my family, um, and just being focused on my customers and trying to sell. Like I feel like 10 years have gone by and I don't really know of companies to go look at to try to join other than companies of like close colleagues who have left and gone somewhere. So like my search, the boss that I really liked, he went to Amazon. I've been trying to get an interview at Amazon. They say, they're this like the world's biggest employer, I think, at this point, and like they're hiring so many people. And I'm like, okay, how about you hire me? And I can't get a recruiter to call me back. And I've like done referrals, and um, one of my friends, his girlfriend's a recruiter at Amazon, and he's like, you got to like have your resume, like just take words and phrases from the job application and put it in your resume, because some of these positions, they're getting so many applications for it. It's just like a bot's just scraping things. And so if they can eliminate you, they will. And they're trying to find as close of a match on paper. And then they kind of, move on from there. But for me right now, I just want, I'm looking for just something different and like an ability to grow. Like I feel like, I got a master service agreement signed with one of my customers. It's $2 million a year over 5 years. So like for our company, that's pretty big, but I kind of knew it was coming anyway. And when it happened, I was like not even that excited anymore, because it's just, I don't know, I already knew it was happening. Um, and like they've changed my comp plan, which, they keep moving the goalposts, and that's never fun. So um, I've stayed at Learning Tree for a long time, and I have not found many people who appreciate that. Most people are like, why have you stayed there so long? There must be something wrong with you. We want somebody who like job hops every 18 months. And it's like, but do you want me to leave in 18 months, or do you want me to like stay and contribute to your business for 10 years? So it's odd. But I've found that it seems to me tenure is not as much of a selling point. Like I'm sure it was back in the day, like back in the good old days, but now it's just like maybe there's something wrong with this guy if he's stayed at a company for 10 years. So that's kind of like what I'm dealing with right now. Carlotta, what you got?
Hi, Paul. Two things. First thing, what advice would you give yourself after selling for as long as you have now? So what advice would you give younger Paul going into selling?
I mean, I guess, leave before 5 years, because like no one seems to appreciate being at a company for 10 years. And, I joke about a lot of my customers in the consulting world, they jump like clockwork every 2 years because in consulting, you work and then you go to Deloitte and they give you a $20,000 signing bonus and you work there for 2 years. And then you go to Accenture and they'll give you like a $30,000 signing bonus. And then you go back to Deloitte and they're so happy to have you. They'll give you a 35,000 and you just kind of like keep flopping around. So I think, like if I'm honest with myself, I've gotten a little comfortable over the years and I don't feel like I'm growing. And that's kind of, the main reason why I want to do something different. So earlier self would have been, get into something with higher margins. It could be SaaS, but it could just be something where the margins are better and they can therefore pay people more. Like we have a lot of costs that we incur when we're delivering training and it's live instructors that are facilitating this training. So just costs are higher. They can't pay what like a SaaS company can. And like a lot of the companies that I want to go work for, they want SaaS experience. And so it's like the last application that I did, some of my friends work at Better Cloud. And it's kind of like, and this is like another thing that doesn't help me in the interview process. I'm like very direct and kind of candid and sarcastic and I'm not a technical person. And like I've never been in a situation where a customer has been like, hey, tell me about this router, or like it doesn't happen. They're like, they start spewing stuff at you and you're like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna drop down a couple of notes and let's get one of my technical people on the phone to work through whatever you just said at me. Like you don't have to be a technical person, but a lot of these companies want you to have that SaaS experience. So I would have probably gotten into that maybe earlier on. And just like keep learning, because if you're not learning, then you're dying in sales. And I mean, it's a profession, it's a performance profession. You need to be continuously improving your skills, reading books, listening to podcasts, talking to other sales reps, and keep growing, because otherwise you just be kind of stale after a while.
Thank you for that. Second thing, I am the social media officer for the day, and I wanted to know if I can go ahead and get a picture of us for today.
Yeah.
To be able to post on social media. So I'm going
I'm not
to
wearing
count.
lipstick.
That's
My
cool.
new camera, it like makes my lips look red, but just since we're taking pictures, I just want to make that clear. It just looks like it.
I didn't think you were. All right. Where'd you go? There you go. One. Stop it, Ruben. All right. 1, 2, 3. All right, got it.
One thing that I would say about social media or just like selling is I do a lot of work with the alumni office, and there's like professional networking things that William Mary does. Um, and so like I'll attend like a virtual networking hour, and then I'll have students or alumni ask me like, hey, is it okay if I follow up with you? And yeah, like I showed up at a networking event, so I expect you to connect with me afterwards and ask for help, and I'm happy to try to help. Because especially in a career in sales, you're going to have to get used to and get comfortable with asking for help, asking for things. um, you always want to try to provide value where you can. um, but when you're kind of starting out, you're going to have to be asking for help a lot of the time. And just because like you've asked someone and they haven't responded doesn't mean that they don't really want to help you. It just means that the world is crazy, everyone's super busy, and they just forgot to respond. And so follow up with them. Don't be shy about that and asking for help and following up with people. Like I was going through this interview process with Dell, and I talked to the hiring manager on like a Thursday or Friday, and we had a great conversation. He's up in Philly, I'm in Northern Virginia. He's like, hey, let's get together in Frederick, Maryland. Let's meet in the middle on Monday. I think I'll follow up with you, but let's plan on meeting on Monday morning. And so then Sunday night, he emails me and says, actually, like some stuff came up. I can't meet Monday morning, but I'll let you know when we'll reschedule. And so I waited until Monday, and then Tuesday, he hadn't responded to me. And so I emailed him. He didn't respond. And I might have emailed again Tuesday night. And then I finally called him Wednesday, and he's like, oh, thanks for being so persistent. Another candidate who had interviewed before you like came back and accepted the position, so like we're no longer hiring for this position, but thanks for showing the effort. And again, as a salesperson, part of me is like, you canceled on me and you said you would reschedule, and you never did. And but like it's just how things are sometimes, and especially with hiring managers, um or just in recruiting in general. Like you might think you're being annoying, um but they view it as like, oh, this person is showing initiative, um ignoring the fact that like they've not followed through on things that they've said to you, which like gets me. Like um I always mean what I say, and I will always do what I say, which goes a long way with customers. It's like my bosses in the past have been like, well, what's the secret? What do you do? And I care. I do what I say that I'm going to do. I follow up with customers. It's not that complicated. Just showing up a lot of the time, because people get distracted. And so if you're just a person who's consistent and responsive, that you're already kind of ahead of the pack. Roman.
Hey, Paul. I had a question about retirement. Like, what, in your experience, what you've seen in sales, what is like the average retirement rate that you've seen? I guess that's stemming from like just hearing about the high salaries, as you go up. I personally, I figured it'd be, quite early opposed to other jobs. Just curious about that.
Yeah, a buddy of mine that I worked with at CoStar, he's still at CoStar, and he's been selling for a long time. Like he did newspaper ads for a long time. Like he's kind of just he's a sales guy. And he's been like harassing me to be like, what's your number, Paul? Like what's the number that you have to have in the bank to retire? because he's got this number in his head where him and his family can retire, and he wants to retire at like 50 something, let's just say 50. And like I talked to my wife about that, and she's like, well, what would you do if you were able to retire? Like you wouldn't want to just sit around. And like if I didn't have to worry about money, I'd probably work at PetSmart, taking care of pets, or maybe at a daycare facility taking care of kids, but that doesn't pay the bills. So it's hard to find that information. Like, I mean, the biggest thing I guess is to make sure you're putting stuff away. Carlotta, what would I've done 5 years ago? I've been good for the last 5 years, but like when I first started my career, I wasn't contributing and maxing out my 401k and IRAs, and I would have done that because, um, you know, I've been doing that consistently, and now I've got this money that's will be available. I don't know when I'm 55 or whatever age it is. And if you have it, you'll spend it. The same guy that I worked with at CoStar, he's just like, it doesn't matter how much money you make, because things will come up. Like he just closed this deal and he gets a $15,000 commission check, but he's got to replace his fence on his house, and that's like $18,000 or something stupid like that. Like, until you start making like stupid money, and even then you'll start like finding dumb things to spend your money on. But the best thing is to one of my current coworkers, he always likes to say, like, just try to live off your base salary and like have that mindset. And so that way your commission is all just, for investments and for retirement and that kind of stuff. So yeah, we're living in a tiny house. That's another thing. Like I just moved into this house in Leesburg, Virginia. I mean, I can't not sell now. Like, I have to. So it's gonna be a while, I think. But yeah, I hope that helps, Roman. I mean, the biggest thing is like you know, don't spend all your money on silly things. Make sure you're because in sales you'll have big years, and then you'll have not so big years. And so if you buy expensive cars and a big house, and then you have a slow quarter or a slow year, then all of a sudden it's like, wait, what do I do? So I mean, it's live within your means, put money away, because in normal jobs you're kind of going up incrementally year over year. And sometimes in sales, like I said, I did 270, and then next year I did 190. So that's like a pretty significant drop. It's not always as consistent because it's, what are your customers doing? What's the comp plan doing? I've got a really big account with Booz Allen Hamilton, which is great when they're cooking, but when they're like implementing Workday and they're in like heavy proposal season and no one's spending money and taking time to take training with me, I'm just sitting on my hands and I'm not making any money. So just, be smart about your money, because it's ebbs and flows over time.
Yeah, we have time for maybe one more question. Anybody have one to leave us with? If not, Paul will just
What
leave
is
it to you
Jesus?
to-
What is Jesus
Okay.
drinking?
Water.
That's a big boy cup. Yeah, but any of you guys have any questions about anything? Broadly, social media, yeah. Social media is good because generally people are good and generally people want to help. And I just kind of have this, I had this one meeting with the CIO for New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. And this was early on in my career. And like, I was a 20 something and she's 50, maybe like she's had a very long career, successful career. And here I am, this like person who's going to try to talk to her about some training and some Salesforce stuff. Um, but meeting her, she's just a person, just like I'm a person. And I've had lots of situations over the years where I'm able to connect and sell to people because sometimes, other sellers might assume this CIO or this executive is out of touch because they're so high in the organization. But maybe because they're so high in the organization, no one else is bothering to try to contact that person. And at the end of the day, we're all people, just trying to live our lives and have a career. So don't be afraid to ask for help. And again, like in sales, the worst somebody can say is no. Like I had one customer who I called to introduce myself and he cut me off and said, I don't want to know your name. Learning tree, you guys, you change reps all the time and you're going to be gone in 6 months. And he hung up the phone. And he's bought from me now 3 or 4 times because he's moved a couple of different times in different New York City agencies. But he always calls me when he's moved to a new spot and he's got money and wants to get some stuff done. And all I did was just, every 3 months, every 6 months, just follow up, check in, see how he's doing, try to offer some value, talk about a new webinar we're doing, about a new technology, or offer something. And just me just showing up. It wasn't any kind of like complex negotiation, or it's just being there. Again, sometimes just showing up is half the battle.
Awesome. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate you showing up like always and sharing information with the cohort. Look forward to next time.
Yeah. If any guys are in Northern Virginia, let me know. I'm in Leesburg. Like I said, it's by Dulles International, and, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to try to help. Yeah. And also I just love selling. Like I just love, the fact that now I don't have to go into the office. I can just like sit at home and generate revenue. And like my company has the infrastructure to fulfill the customer requirements, and so I'm just like a guy at a computer talking to people, generating revenue and paying for my life. It's a really cool thing. So
Awesome. Appreciate it. All right. They are in sales conference today and tomorrow. So back to that. And then we'll meet back together today, I think 15:30 Central
back to work,
for
everybody.
Block with Christine.
Yeah.
Thanks again, Paul.
Thanks, guys. Have a good afternoon.